Welcome back to another episode of NewOrleans.Football presented by PJ's Coffee. We are coming to you live from our studio in Irvine, California, and that is the Ochsner Health Podcast Studio. And of course, if you aren't signed up for our website, I don't know what you're doing at this point. It only costs $9 a month. You can take down that first payment to $720 with the code CAMP24. You get access to all of our news, our analysis. You get the recordings of these shows live. You get them on your feed a day earlier. There's an extra podcast every single week. There is so much stuff on this site. It is a cheap price. We're going to work as hard as we can to make sure that it's worth your while every single month. So sign up, support us, and most of all, you can help us do all this stuff that we do. We built this thing on the support of the community. So just become part of that community. You get entrance to it. You can talk to other fans. There's so many benefits here. And make sure you get that done today. If you are not signed up, do us that favor. All right, we got a great show for you guys today. We're going to get into the backup quarterback battle. We're going to talk about where Derek Carr stands, cover everything you need to know about the Saints up until this point. So stick around right after this quick word from our sponsors. But before we get to those, check out our guy Matt Bowers at one of his many locations throughout the Gulf Coast region. He has many, many great cars at all of his locations. They got great prices. The customer care is second to none. So make sure you go check out Bowers at one of his locations today. All right, let's hit these ads. Ochsner Health inspires healthier lives and stronger communities through a combination of standard-setting expertise, quality, and connection not found anywhere else in the region. To learn more about how Ochsner empowers people to get well and stay well, visit ochsner.org. Long live you. The NewOrleans.Football show is proudly presented by PJ's Coffee. PJ's Coffee has some of the best drinks that you can find. They have locations all over the city. They have pastries and everything else you need to get your day started. So go check them out.
Aw, I thought I was the only one on the lottery ticket.
And why would you think that?
Look at this mug. You're all playing for second.
Hey guys, we're all lucky dogs here.
You could win a top prize of $50,000. That's a lot of kibble.
Yeah, I like kibble.
And there are loads of prizes.
What? Play $50,000 Lucky Dog from the lottery. Top prize, $50,000.
Looking for the best insurance coverage at the lowest price? Look no further than Shabear Insurance, the Earhart Agency. They are a local independent insurance agency right here in New Orleans, specializing in home, flood, and auto insurance. Their agents are born and raised in the area and understand our community's unique needs and the homeowners insurance crisis our residents are currently in. At Shabear Insurance, the Earhart Agency, their dedicated team will shop every available carrier in the market, ensuring you get the most comprehensive coverage at the lowest possible price. They know your time is valuable, which is why they work diligently to provide you with the quotes as soon as possible. Why settle for less when you can have the best? Trust Shabear Insurance, the Earhart Agency, to protect what matters most to you. I do. I've been a client of theirs since 2021. When we couldn't find someone to insure our house because of the big oak tree growing over top, Shabear worked until they found someone that would work with us and give us the protection that we need to feel safe in our new home. Call them today at 504-326-6526 or visit them online at Protected by Shabear. That's 504-326-6526. Shabear Insurance, the Earhart Agency, your local insurance experts. Hardhide Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey is an 86 proof blend of aged wheat bourbon, American light whiskey, and fresh Ponchatoula strawberries. Blended in New Orleans, it is not for the thin-skinned. Look for it in your favorite stores, bars, and restaurants. NewOrleans.Football is proud to be sponsored by Firehouse Subs. Make sure you check out their location on Veterans Boulevard. All right, let's get into the show.
Welcome into the Ochsner Health Podcast Studio here in Irvine, California. It is now time for the lead topic presented by our new sponsor, Aaron Rose. Guys, the backup quarterback job. It hasn't been the marquee matchup this training camp, but you had an article yesterday detailing how basically efficient these backup quarterbacks have been throughout practice. Jay Kaner, he stuck out today. Beautiful, beautiful balls being thrown throughout the red zone team period. Who has the edge in this battle?
Who you got?
I mean, I've had Hainer all along, and I would say what stood out and what you really illustrated in your article yesterday, though, is it has felt more like a tie. Like, without even really thinking about it, they take turns every day with the twos and the threes, and they do feel like they're kind of even. And because of that, that feels like a win for Rattler. Like he caught up. It feels like he caught up to make it even. But I still think Haener has been really impressive. And then, we're doing this show on a day when Haener maybe had his best practice he's ever had as a Saint. Certainly the best one we've seen all summer, and he's had a good spring and summer. So I still think he's going to be hard to pass up. I mean, Rattler's ceiling always gives him a tiebreaker, but I think Haener's keeping it from being a tie just yet.
If I had to pick one, I'm taking Rattler every single time. Like if I'm taking a guy on my team 100 out of 100 times. I mean, we're 8 practices into this, plus 3 mini camp, plus 3, so 14. I don't know how many rookie mini camp practices are. So 17 practices total probably overall, and he looks pretty damn good. Like he looks pretty damn good. I like his command of the offense more than I like Haener's. I think Haener kind of executes maybe a couple more little things, but I think like as far as like stand in the pocket and make a play, like give me Rattler every single time. And I think the other stuff's going to kind of come with it. Like the consistency.
Yeah, there's a difference between who do I think is ahead as of this moment and who am I projecting, because Rattler's growth.
I think what we saw on practice 1 to practice 8 is vastly different. I think what we saw in minicamp to now was like worlds apart. Like you see a guy that's getting comfortable with playing NFL quarterback, and I think you keep seeing the trajectory go up and up and up. I think the throws that he can make are substantially a wider array. Like the one to Holker today in the back of the end zone, just that dart. And like I think Jake's great. Like I think he's great. I think if you had to put a guy in a game right now, like maybe it is him today, but a week from now, I don't know if it's the same answer. Like the path, the trajectory is crazy.
The trajectory where it was like this, and then it's going like this, and then it's going, even if he's going up a little, it's become so close in a very short amount of time.
Yeah. So I mean, the thing with Rattler though is I need to see it in the game, but I guess the thing with Haener is I need to see it in the game too. Like Haener had a really good camp last year, and I thought he got into preseason and kind of laid an egg a little bit.
No question.
Like we were watching him last year, and it was like, this is unbelievable. Like this is a rookie that came in a way that like with the confidence and the execution that I don't think like, it was impressive. And then like we're all talking about it, and then he hits the preseason and it's kind of down a little bit. So anything I believe about Rattler, like I need to see it in the game, just to kind of push it there. But Haener's in the same boat. But
I also think Rattler might have better improv ability, which is kind of what happens, especially when they're in with the backups in games. Like we might see him scramble, we might see him make some outside of the pocket throws. I mean, I've seen a little more. I don't know if command's the right word or polish from Haener, but I mean, I'm predisposed to think I'm seeing that because I know he's the new guy and the other guy's the old guy. And yeah, I mean, right before Rattler threw that great bullet in the back of the end zone to Holker, he threw a very similar pass that was 3 feet over everyone's head in the back of the end zone, and so he's still refining that power, but arm talent's no question.
The thing I guess the way I would compare the two is I think Jake's. I mean, obviously Rattler's ceiling's way high. I think Jake's probably closer to like touching his ceiling, and I think Rattler has a ton of room to go, but like I think the levels are pretty close right now. I think, you could pick one today and 3 days from now it could swing another way. And then 3 days after that, it could go either which way. But I don't think what happens right now is the end of the story for Spencer Rattler. Like if he wins the backup job, great. I don't think his story ends as a backup quarterback. Like I don't. I think there's a very good chance that he becomes a starter somewhere. Like is it here, somewhere else? Like he'll be a guy that gets a chance to start in the league. There's no doubt in my mind about it. Like I think he has the best arm in this camp. Like he has the best arm in this camp. I think Jake Haener is probably like a really good backup. Like I think that's probably his ceiling is as a really good backup quarterback. Like someone you feel great about having around in that role. I could see him being like a Minshew type who gets like a stretch of games and looks good, a Brian Hoyer stretch or something like that. But like Spencer,
remember we had Dane Brugler on last year. He compared him to Taylor Heineke.
That same that same group of guys like QB 35, like if everything comes together or something like that, QB 40, whatever it is. Like Rattler has a chance, and I'm not saying he's going to get there, but he has traits at least that like gives you a chance to be something a little bit more. And does it all come together? It's way too. We're like I said, 17 practices, way too soon to say it, but like we're seeing things that are like. yeah, I mean, that's a special throw. Like, that's a good play. That's kind of, and there's been a bunch of them. Like, it's not like a one moment here, one moment there. There's like a collection of like moments that are like, man, this is really good. And I think maybe it flies under the radar a little bit because like, that the starter is set. Like, that is like disaster would have to strike for Derek Carr to not start every game this season, barring injury. Like, but I think it's just kind of Spencer came in. It's like we all know he's kind of like developing and let it go. But like some of these plays to Tipton, some of these throws down the field. I mean, there's stuff that's like, this is like special moments. So I'm excited to see where it goes. Like I think there's a long way to go with it. But there's stuff that I really like.
We're only 8 practices in, but the exponential growth I think that's the word to apply to both of these players, honestly. You can see the things that in the offseason, Haener took time to work on when he told us he was going with Gruden and stuff like that to work on different things. You can see that. But also, like you pointed out, Rattler's growth from the first time we saw him to now, it's just trending upward. And the thing that I noticed is it seems like now that, not all the way live bullets because he's still wearing a red jersey, but he seems to make more plays with the rush coming at him. And he knows he's not going to get hit, but the possibility is there. He seems to make more sound plays like that. So I think Rattler, I think down the line, he will win this backup job.
Yeah, he might. I mean, he definitely might. One thing I like about Spencer and one thing I dislike about Spencer, and it's both one and the same. I really like his ability to like kind of just take off and run sometimes, but then also sometimes I think he does it too quick.
I think they both do. I think they both do. Yeah. I think we've seen that a lot in practice. Yeah, and to be fair, the offensive line has problems. The backup offensive lines are. You get 1 second before you have to decide what you're going to do.
Yeah, look, one point, just one overarching point. One thing I kind of hate about like the battle aspect of this is that it almost ends up being like you have to like put one down to put the other one up. Right. Like I think they're both doing great. Like I think they're both kind of like little highlights of camp. Like I enjoy watching them play. I think Jake's doing a great job executing. I think Spencer's doing a great job developing. It isn't like everything on Twitter just kind of gets like pitted as like, they're pitted against each other. And it's like, no, man, like I think they're both doing a good job. I think Derek's doing a good job in his role. Like I think they're all kind of like executing the way that you would want. It's not without, hurdles with the line and everything, but I think Jake's looked as good as you could expect. And I think Spencer has looked as good as you could expect to this point.
Yeah. I mean, certainly not putting anyone down. I think,
like I said,
I had Haener ahead. And I think Haener's had a good camp, and I think he had his best day today. So, like, to me, Haener went from whatever, let's call it a 6 to a 6.1, and maybe Rattler went from a 5 to a 5.8. So, I mean, I have no idea what those numbers are, like 7s, 8s, whatever. But what I'm saying is Rattler has quickly closed the gap, but he hasn't passed Haener in my mind yet.
Yeah.
He hasn't done things that I'm just like, oh my God, you can't take this guy off the field. You're seeing a learning curve there, but it's absolutely true that the arm talent is they got a special arm in this game.
And then another thing today that stood out versus the other practices are that they absorbed those Nathan Peterman reps. So you were able to see somebody
That's a really good point.
You were able to see somebody for longer to have a time to get a cadence in with the second, third team offense because you knew nobody else is coming in because Peterman isn't in the building anymore.
That says a lot about these guys. That I don't know how much of a safety net Nathan Peterman was. I don't know if that's the right term for him.
Yeah.
But they're like, we've got our 3.
I honestly didn't know he lasted longer than I thought. Like, it made me start to think that it's like, well, they're going to keep him around to like help develop these guys. Like, I don't know what the deal is here because like, it was like, man, he's just stealing snaps here. And I don't want to put it that way, but it was just like, he's kind of like in the way of like the development. Like, man, the third guy's only getting 2 snaps because the fourth guy has to get 2. Like, it just kind of felt like, I was like, all right, so what's the plan? It lasted longer than I thought it was going to last.
Even in everything, even in routes on air and stuff like that, that's reps you need like to get timing down with the second and third receivers. They're rolling in new people every day. They brought in Samson Nakua and Marquez Callaway. Callaway is a known name around here, but not to these quarterbacks because they've barely played with him. So having that time to be able to build a rapport with him when it comes time for team and one-on-ones and 7-on-7, it's pretty important.
Yeah, and then tight ends Mason Fairchild and Kevin Rader will be here probably tomorrow. They tried out today and they signed them. So I would assume they're going to practice tomorrow, Saturday.
Yeah, additions being made across the board, subtractions being made. It's camp. That's just the
Just
way
to
it
keep
is.
this conversation going, we're gonna have long-term opinions, but they're playing a game in a week.
Mhm.
They're playing a game in a week and a half a day. Who do you think looks better in that first game,
Against Arizona.
Haener or Rattler?
Well, who's QB2?
Haener probably gets to go first. I bet.
I think whoever gets to go with them is probably got an advantage.
We'll probably have Talifuaga playing out there in the first
Yeah.
game. Well, to be fair, we might see the starters in that game, but yeah, that's true.
No,
Yeah, I think whoever.
Yeah, I feel the same way because Rattler, this is the only system he knows. You know what I mean? The Kubiak system, that's what he came into, and that's the only thing he knows. Out there with Haener, he knows the Pete Carmichael system they had last year, and so maybe he might fall into some of those tendencies if it gets like too much pressure on the defensive side when they coming in, and he might like revert to that, but I don't think he will. Yeah, I think Haener goes first in that, and then you get to see the Rattler show later down the line.
Rattler could skew opinions with a throw, though.
I know.
All it takes is one.
And
All
them
it takes
throw,
is one.
and he,
Haener's been so sound. I'm a little gun shy here because like I thought last year's preseason was quite underwhelming.
yeah,
Right. He looked really good last summer. Yeah.
So I don't know. I'll go Rattler. I'll bet on
Okay.
the underdog here.
Sure.
I'll take Rattler.
sure. Well, check out the full article. That
Is he
Nick-
the underdog? I don't know.
No, he's the.
He's probably the underdog. He's
the
drafted.
betting-
Is he?
He's
Yeah.
drafted lower. He's the second. I mean, yeah, Haener's probably the betting favorite for QB2.
Because of the year. More of the year more than the draft
Yeah.
slot. But
Yeah.
yeah. I think so. I think odds of who looks better, especially if Haener has gotten to go first each time, and I bet they'll do that in the preseason game, even though it's every other day. And then the second week, I think Rattler will get the chance to go first. So
Yeah, against San Francisco.
so that makes Haener the betting
I mean,
favorite.
I think it would be. It's better for the long-term future of this team, even if they're both here. And I think they both should be here all year long.
Mhm.
It's better for the long-term future of this team if Rattler's straight up take it, claim QB2, because then he's getting all the reps in the practices all
Yeah.
year long. And you want him making those throws. Like, I think they should hope. They should. But I mean, for multiple reasons, though, they should hope. Because, like, if he's at QB2, that means he's developing. That means that maybe he's on that path to possibly being, starter quality.
Yeah,
You
for
want him to run away with this.
Yeah.
I don't know that he's not running away with it yet, though, but he could.
The thinking behind that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. One of the main parts about the article that you put out is the heat maps. And someone's heat map who really looked more green than red was Derek Carr. And that'll take us into our next segment presented by Shawbear Insurance, the Earhart Agency. 8 practices in, we've seen Derek Carr just not kind of waver. He just consistently looks good in this new offense. How does this offense fit him? How is he looking? And since the line protection gets kind of wavery, sometimes they were pretty good today. How will they all fit together?
It's impossible for me not to like this offense for Derek Carr. And every day in practice, it seems like such a good idea. The play action opens so much opportunity for him to get a smart, efficient, high percentage pass off. They do use a lot of quick passing game. I'm obviously very concerned about protection time, and I think Nick said this the other day. At some point, it's going to be 3rd and 7, and I don't know what's going to happen on those downs. But my bigger concern is always just Derek Carr this is what, year 11 in the NFL, and probably his 7th new offense, and he's taken time to adjust to a lot of them, including last year. Including even more drastically the year before that when they hired Josh McDaniels, thinking he was going to be the answer for him in Vegas. So, I mean, it's cautious optimism, but he seems to operate it well. He seems to be enthusiastic about it. He just seems like what were we talking about? Nearly 70% completion percentage last year, and this offense, I think, should lead itself to even more efficiency. So I like the efficiency I've seen on the field, but I've got to temper my enthusiasm for it, and the offensive line is the main reason to temper enthusiasm for it.
Before we get to Carr, just one positive point, I think, for the offensive line. One positive point.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there's a lot of stuff to worry about. There's a lot of stuff to worry about. We have no idea if it's going to be okay or not. All concerns are fair at this point. One thing I would say, though, is that, the coaching staff and the development, I think, matters. And if you were going into a season with question marks on the offensive line, I think the two of the people you would probably have on your list for this system would be John Benton and Rick Dennison.
No question.
Yeah.
And I mean, this John Benton, since 1995, has been an offensive line coach. Colorado State, St. Louis Rams, Houston Texans, Miami Dolphins, Jaguars, 49ers, Jets, now with the Saints. And then Rick Dennison, my God, like Denver in 2001. He becomes an offensive coordinator. He's a quarterbacks coach. But like he's been in the system forever. Jets, O-line coach, run game coordinator. Vikings, O-line coach, run game coordinator. Then with the Saints. Like he's been there since day one in this offensive system. Like
Yeah,
their
working for
development-
Mike Shanahan.
Yeah.
And Benton was working for Gary Kubiak.
Yeah, like the development process of this, like, and you're going back to the Rams here, or the Broncos here, who like, you know, they created the
Invented it,
system.
yeah.
They didn't have great offensive linemen across the board. Like they figured out how to make it work. I mean, so there's a reason there to kind of think like, okay, maybe they'll figure this out. Like I was looking at it today, I was like, all right, like calm down a minute, like let's see what this looks like. And then they had a decent day today, and I'm like looking at the coaches, and I'm like, all right, like if I had to make a bet, like these are the guys that maybe they figured out. So like let's see what the process looks like. Fuaga looked way better today. I thought he had a great day today.
Yeah.
Had really good reps against Chase Young in one-on-ones, was solid in team drills, you know, panning up and down. But it was more even today than it was a day ago. So like yeah, just like calm down and see how it looks. But I think there's reasons for concern, but like that is one reason if you're looking for like, is this going to be okay? I just can't imagine that it's going to be in like an utter and abject disaster. I think there's games where it might be, but like it's also a situation where it might like be horrible week 1 and then week 5 it's better. Like I don't know.
Well, the counterpoint to that is everything you just said. I felt that exact same enthusiasm in March.
That's not enthusiasm.
I felt, but about what Dennison and Benton could do.
That's just more.
Like,
I would
love those hires in March.
I would say more levity though. Like enthusiasm is absolutely the wrong word.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's going to be okay. I don't know if it's going to be okay. But if there's a reason for it to be okay, it would be those two men.
Well, and to continue that, when we talk to people, when we talk to them, and when we talk to the people on this team throughout OTAs and minicamp, I did have enthusiasm. I was like, gosh, these guys are going to make this work. My only counter argument is, if we're just evaluating Derek Carr, how does Derek Carr look in the new offense? I mean, that's probably the first question. If this is the first time we had talked about the team in 8 days, how does Carr look in the new offense? I do feel like we haven't gotten a full appreciation of it because I don't feel like he's had a ton of time to throw yet. So we just don't know yet because we haven't seen him get a lot of time in the pocket yet. There've been a lot of days where those plays don't last more than 2 seconds. It feels like
I don't know if I agree with that totally. I mean, I think it's been a couple times. I don't think it's been. Do you think it's been like every single day? I don't think it's been like every single day.
Not that he's constantly under attack, but I haven't seen it. Wow, Carr's just got all day to throw day yet. You know what I mean?
I mean, even on the worst day, he had one to Horvath. You know, he had a lot of time to roll out, get that pass out
that
there.
was a nice play.
To him.
Really
I
nice
mean,
play.
he's got 6 throws over 20 yards down the field out of 40. I mean, there's good time. There's a lot of throws 10 to 20 yards, as many as there are 0 to 10. Like there's been enough time. I mean, there's obviously been sessions where it gets wrecked. I mean, that's going to happen. I don't feel like I personally couldn't paint the picture where it's like, man, they're out here and they can't run their offense. Like I felt that one day. I felt that one day, and there were still some moments within that. But I think he's looked good in it. Like, but he's gonna. I thought he looked good in Pete's offense though in camp. I mean, it's you know, it's like T-Bob was making fun of me for saying this the other day. It's like in this situation though, like this is where he would look good. Like, you know, I know online, like, you know, sometimes people try to act like there's zero talent at this quarterback, but like I don't like he's a talented player who in situations I think things come apart for him. So like in a situation where there isn't the ability to really take a lot apart, like I think he's usually okay, even in the face of like that pass rush when Chase Young's barreling at you and you know he's not going to hit you. Like you're going to stand there and still make a throw, and you can still make a decision. Like it's different when you actually take that hit. And I think, you know, that's where we saw it. And then I've said this before, then he's fighting Eric McCoy, then he's fighting, and I think that's where stuff kind of comes apart a little bit. And that's not what we're, you know, that's not here. I think it's been good here. There were the 2 picks early. He's like, completing 75% of his passes probably today. That number probably even went up because I think he was 6 of 9 today. So yeah, they've I mean, I think he's looked pretty good so far though.
Well, we got a lot more to get to in the show today. Let's go to our first commercial break, though, before we get to the rest of it.
Total Maintenance is one of the largest locally owned home and commercial service providers in South Louisiana. They were founded in 1980 and serve the greater New Orleans and Baton Rouge markets. And Total Maintenance wants to show some love to our NOF listeners. They have a membership program that gets you 2 tune-up visits for AC and heating, as well as club membership discounts of 15% on all repairs, half off of all diagnostic charges, and 3-year warranties on most repairs for membership clients. This is usually priced at the low price of $24.95 a month per system, but if you tell Total Maintenance that you found them through NOF, they'll lower the price to $20.95 per month per system for as long as you keep the membership active. It will never increase. Total Maintenance has a tune-up special running this summer for $79, down from the normal price of $179. This is a one-time offer for one system only. They also offer a free diagnostic on second opinions on units deemed to be unrepairable, and they offer free estimates for replacements as well as commercial maintenance programs. Services include AC and heating service and replacement, electrical service, plumbing service, as well as generator service and installation. They are Total Maintenance. Find them at tm-ac.com or give them a call at 504-841-3300, or if you're in the Baton Rouge area, 225-480-1000. Martin Wine and Spirits is home to a selection of hand-picked barrel select bourbon, whiskeys, and much, much more. They are family owned and operated since 1946 and specialize in wine, spirits, gourmet food, gift baskets, catering, and tasting events. They have many locations, so they're never too far away. You can check them out in Metairie, New Orleans, Mandeville, and Baton Rouge, or if it's more convenient, you can always shop online. Whether you're a wine novice or a seasoned collector, you'll enjoy the Martin Wine and Spirit experience.
Shrimp Remoulade combos are back at New Orleans Hamburger and Seafood Company. Zesty shrimp remoulade served with fried shrimp, catfish, or soft-shell crab starting at $10.99. Or try one of our spring specials, catfish lafitte or lemon caper fish with crab meat, now at New Orleans Hamburger and Seafood Company.
There's nothing quite like the feeling of stepping into your dream home. At Jefferson Financial Federal Credit Union, we can help make that dream a reality with a team dedicated to you. When you partner with Jefferson Financial, you do so for the life of the loan. Having a single point of contact when questions arise is invaluable. Our experts are here to guide you every step of the way. There's no better time to invest in your future. Apply online at jeffersonfinancial.org. Federally insured by NCUA, Equal Housing Lender.
Whether you are a local New Orleanian or a fan in town for the game, get your pre- and post-game fired up at Aaron Rose. Local chaos and local love for the black and gold. Wake up and live with daily drink specials, mimosas, screwdrivers, Bloody Marys, and hot or frozen Irish coffees, all just $3 or $4 between 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Aaron Rose, half a block from Bourbon Street in the French Quarter, 811 Conti Street. All right, welcome back to the Oshner Health Podcast Studio. Our next segment is presented by Hardhide Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey. Speaking of position battles, we were just talking about the quarterbacks, breaking that down in the first half of this show. Just is there anything that you've seen so far to this point in camp that you're just like, man, like my whole perception of this is completely altered as far as a position battle?
Not really. I mean, I was trying to find one. I went through my list for the article I wrote heading into camp. Number one was Alante Taylor versus Kool-Aid McKinstry. It's not as tight as I thought it would be. I thought that would be a little more neck and neck. I think Alante feels pretty comfortably ahead, but he started ahead, so that hasn't drastically changed. Nick Saldivari, because of his injury, I actually think Lucas Patrick might be the front runner there. I don't think Patrick's had a couple good days in practice. That's wide open with Udo, Young. But my perception was that was going to be pretty wide open. Werner versus Gay, it's still Werner. Defensive line packing orders, same as I thought. I still have Groupie ahead of Charlie Smith. Lou Headley and Matthew Hayball is close, like I thought it would be. Howden slightly ahead of Abram, like I thought it would be. Jamal Williams versus Kendra Miller. We're going to get to this in Martin's question of the day. They might both be falling behind Jordan Mims there, but Kendra Miller has not surpassed Jamal Williams. I think the only change really is the one I had 10th. A.T. Perry versus Cedric Wilson versus Equanimous St. Brown versus Bub Means. The fact that Mason Tipton has jumped into the ring with those guys and that none of those guys has stood out to take over the third receiver role. But anything we didn't expect? Not really. What about you?
I think I'd agree with all those. I mean, the only other one I would add to the mix is I think maybe the backup linebacker one. I think we probably thought it was Hudson and Ford coming into camp, and I think it's probably Anthony Orji and DeMarco Jackson are probably the main guys there. Other than that, it's been kind of to scratch. Safety's kind of interesting, just like guys like Will Harris. Teamer's been getting earlier snaps. Like a couple guys are
Teamer's in that mix more. Will Harris is in the mix.
A couple guys there that we weren't necessarily expecting, but I don't think anything majorly different.
No, I agree. I tell you one thing that's a little bit of a worry spot for me is I don't like anyone at backup offensive tackle. Like I thought Trevor Penning would have someone breathing down his neck. Not only is that not happening, I have no idea who, like Landon Young and Oli Udoh are getting snaps there. I don't think either one of them has really stood out. They flip back and forth between right tackle and left tackle. If Tali Fuaga was to like miss time, I really dread who would play left tackle for this team.
Yeah.
I feel worse about the level of competition at the tackle spots.
Yeah, for sure. All right, our next segment is presented by New Orleans Hamburger and Seafood Co. Brian Bresee was back at practice Friday after missing a few days with a minor injury, but Kevin on the Members Only podcast brought up a great point. Is he flying too far under the radar? I mean, that's kind of was one of my takes last year too, is that we probably didn't talk about him enough throughout the year.
He kind of meant it in the other way, though. Like, are we just accepting that Brian Bresee is good? He hasn't done anything yet this summer because he missed almost all of OTAs and minicamp.
I think that's an unfair point.
I know, but like, when do we need to see something? We're giving him a grace period. Like, we're saying, Kendry Miller, this is unacceptable. We need to see you. We've seen Brian Bresee do like 2 sets of team all summer, and we just assume when he's healthy he's going to be good, or do we need to see it?
I would say the difference here is that like we did see it though. We saw it for a whole season, and he made a lot of plays last year. I thought he was a good pass rusher last year. He looked okay in one-on-one play. I would have liked to see a little bit more there, but I mean, he's missed a couple of practices, but like Kendry missed like a whole season, and we saw it for like a game, and then he's missing all this. I don't think we're like Brian. To me, Brian Bresee is proved the floor. Like I think his floor is fine, and he comes back and he's at. Yeah.
Do we need a leap from him though? Is the question like how much is this team counting on Brian Bresee? Can he just be a guy? Does he need to be? Can he just be a Nathan Shepard type of guy, or does he need to be like a top 10 guy on this team? And do we need to start like getting excited about Brian Bresee? Like he's so quiet, I guess.
You'd like to, yeah. I mean, obviously, I think you want to see a leap from everyone. I think you'd like to see 5 sacks to 8 or whatever, but he's not like in a like a target for me though. Like Kendry kind of is.
It's just kind of funny that he's a first round pick that I don't know if we talked about him on the show once. Like you just kind of accept that, hey, he's a good player. Like every once in a while, these guys.
The reason for that though is like no pads and then foot injury. Like this is where you would start to see him, I think. And I would almost guarantee if he was out there the last 2 days, like
he'd be teeing off like the other guys. Right?
Yeah, everybody's teeing off right now, and you know Shepard's in there, Christian Boyd's in there, Saunders is making plays. Like he would absolutely,
he would have made plays.
Yeah,
just like
yeah.
that.
I think
and then we'd be really excited.
I think it was just he was unlucky to be sidelined.
Well, it's just funny that
it was wide open.
He's such a high profile guy that we never talk about. And last year we didn't talk about him even when he was doing good. But a follow up. 2 other guys who were there, Cameron Jordan and Peyton Turner. Cam Jordan playing defensive tackle a lot in sub packages. Peyton Turner has done that before. Cam Jordan hasn't as much. And today we saw the NASCAR package where it was Chase Young, Granderson on the outside, Cam Jordan, Peyton Turner on the inside. Is this something to get excited about?
I like the group. Yeah, I mean, I like the D line kind of a little bit right now. Just the idea of it. I mean, Chase Young obviously adds to it. I like the idea of kind of like, okay, Cam plays more inside. Going back to 2015, he hasn't done that more than 25 times in a season, and you're seeing more of that now. I like the idea of it. I think it's a way to get him kind of involved in that stuff. Maybe make it a spot where he can make some plays. Peyton Turner's flashed a little bit in some of that stuff. If you get like proof positive with those guys, like there's some depth there. I mean, I like the group. I like the group for sure.
Speaking of trying not to get too hyped, Dennis Allen had stronger praise for Peyton Turner today than I even expected. Like he's looked good in camp, but Dennis Allen was really raving about him today and saying we're finally seeing the things we saw when we drafted him and stuff. I can't get burned again, but I do like everything I'm seeing from Peyton Turner. I was very excited this time last year, too.
It's just the health. It's the health card.
Yeah.
It's the health card. That's the only thing. Like, if he's healthy, he can be consistent. If he's not healthy, he can't be consistent. But I don't think I'm guessing the inconsistency isn't because of the talent. We haven't seen him play enough to really know if he can maintain a consistent, healthy season, but it feels like the health thing is the issue. Hopefully he can figure that out. All right. Our next segment is presented by the Louisiana Lottery. Rashid Shaheed had a nice day Friday, good camp overall, and is entrenched as wide receiver 2. Mike, the fantasy guru here. Is he on your fantasy radar? Do you take him in a 12-team league, 3 receiver leagues? Could you see him being a weekly fantasy starter in any type of fantasy league?
So I went and looked at the fantasy rankings and a couple different websites. He's kind of in the 50s. I mean, he's near names like Gabe Davis, Josh Palmer, other kind of big play, exciting guys. But the thing that's standing out to me about Shaheed is, speaking of what we were just saying with Brian Bresee, I'm just like, he's like known commodity for me in camp. Like, you know, like I watched one-on-ones and I'm like, oh yeah, Shaheed caught all his passes. Like, and I'm like, but we're evaluating other guys that we don't know about. Like, he's already become like known commodity guy for me. He's the number 2 receiver in this offense. And it looks like Olave and Shaheed are going to be on the field a ton because they don't want to have tells by, you know, this personnel does this personnel does this. I think the volume could be, last year's 46 catches, 719 yards, 5 touchdowns. That 46 catches, I think, could go way up. Like, I think he's going to be a really good value in fantasy. Now, to be a weekly starter, do you have to be a top 30, top 40 fantasy receiver? I don't know if he's going to get there. But, man, would I like to get him for free at the end of a fantasy draft. And there would not be a single week where I would worry about having him on the field because I think he'll get some floor. And we obviously know he has big play ceiling. He could be most improved in this offense, kind of quietly, just because of the volume, don't you think?
They need him to be. They need him to be. They really do. They really need him to be. I think he could have a good fit in this. One thing I like too is like we're seeing like a lot of like reverse action. I think there's an opportunity for him to get some plays there. Like I kind of like his role in this team. I just don't like the overall makeup of the wide receiver room, but I like 1 and 2 isolated from everything else, and he's obviously in that mix. And I think, you know, talking about leap, I don't know leap, but there's some type of, it feels like there's some type of jump, you know, going into the role, but taking advantage of it, getting more snaps, running more routes, all that stuff. I think we're seeing some of that out here. I don't know. People are going to wonder where Brandon is, and I don't think it's anything embarrassing, so I'm just going to say it. Man got a nosebleed. I had to take a break. Has not made it back yet.
We're working hard out here, man.
Yeah, we are.
These are long days.
Yeah, I just want to, I don't know. I've been waiting for him to like show back up. We're coming into the last topic here. So I don't know. Hopefully B's getting that under control wherever he's at. But now it is time for our Martin's question of the day. Martin's is home to a wide selection of hand-picked barrel select bourbon, whiskeys, and more. Martin's, so much more than just wine. First question. Is Jamal Williams' job safe? Let's rephrase this. Is Jamal Williams' role safe?
All right. And he says, assuming Kendrick comes back and plays, how many should we expect him to? I thought Kendrick was going to be the biggest threat to Jamal Williams, and he has not been a threat to him at all. Jordan Mims has become a threat. And we have not seen Jamal Williams really get untracked. I think the best plays we've seen from running backs have been Alvin Kamara and Jordan Mims so far. So if Kendrick comes back and gets over this injury bug and starts to show his talent, Jordan Mims is going to be a part of this mix. Alvin Kamara is going to be a part of this mix. Taysom Hill is going to be a part of the run mix. We saw the first QB power today. I don't think Jamal Williams' role is going to expand. He's due $3.15 million fully guaranteed this year. So they don't even save money if they cut him. But would I be shocked if there's some odd man? I mean, he could also be a guy who gets 20 touches a game because he's a veteran and he knows how to block and he knows how to catch a pass. But, man, he's not a guy I'm buying stock in right now.
Yeah. I don't really have a ton to add there. I think that's it. I mean, I don't know until we see him kind of do something. I think, I don't think he's going to get cut. I mean, I think there's probably some type of role here. I just don't know what it is. Could it be more than last year? Yeah, I mean, because I don't think there's like a huge add-on there. But, like, I don't know that we've necessarily seen it. It feels like he's still kind of getting carries ahead of Mims, but Mims is getting more. So I don't really know how to do the math there necessarily to see exactly how it's stacking up. But it feels like, to me, Mims is having a way better camp. It feels like he's ahead of him. It feels like there's more positivity around him. Jamal might be more of a situational type guy. All right, next one. does Tipton have the skill set to be the team slot receiver? Or is he more Z flanker type? I do not know that we have seen him do a lot of stuff out of the slot to this point. There aren't a ton of nickel snaps in this offense. When he's out there, he typically is more in the Z flanker spot. That doesn't mean that he can't move inside. I think, at some point, that's probably one of the things they want to figure out is how much they can move him around. I don't know that he necessarily needs to be able to be that, because there's a lot of two receiver stuff in this offense. But the more he can do, the better his chances are of making this team. But this is one of those questions where I think it's interesting because like they are doing things differently now. Like the vision of like the old offense is kind of like still there. It's still in my head when I'm thinking about like how I'm making things up, and then it's like wait a minute. It's important, but it's not quite as important, I think, as it was previously.
Yeah, but I understand where the question comes from, because if you want to get excited about Mason Tipton and you're like, all right, what's his role in this team? It feels very similar to the same role that Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed play. So where do snaps come from if you want to get on the field along with those two guys? I mean, would it be very valuable if one of those guys missed a game? I think maybe, but he certainly is not solving the problem of the traffic receiver that,
No.
And it was a question. Dennis Allen has admitted it's a question about him. I talked to his college coach this week, and they really did, like, they tried moving him inside more as a junior, they said, at Yale, and he wasn't, he's getting banged around too much, and they said they didn't think it was good for him physically. They said they finally started doing more of that his senior year, but it's not going to be his forte. So I like the player, and I wish I had discovered some camp sensation that looked a little more different than Olave and Shaheed than he does.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think there's room for him, but yeah, I think there's a redundancy there for sure. There's a lot of guys that kind of fit into one basket, and I think the other basket's completely empty. And if the answer was like, yeah, he can do all the Willie Snead stuff, like I don't know that that's Mike Thomas level answer to what you want for like a Mike level Thomas problem, but like that's an answer to some of that problem. You can make some of those physical catches. You can do some of that stuff over the middle. We haven't seen that yet, but like maybe it does show up, but it's not what I would like prototype him as. That's not my guess. Like I don't think that that's going to be like, in preseason they're like, oh man, this is the guy to throw the ball to on 3rd and 3 with the linebacker on his back. Like
your slot receivers are Taysom Hill and Dallin Holker?
Yeah, they might be. It might be. Jawan Johnson. Yeah,
of course, Jawan.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's a great answer to that. Kevin Austin looks kind of big. A.T.
Perry, maybe he handles the adversity.
Stanley Morgan do anything over the middle? I don't know.
Stanley Morgan has looked great in camp in one-on-one drills. While all the other receivers are hurt, he's kind of been eaten recently, but it's just, and I guess you can't just look at his history and say, well, they never used him on offense in Cincinnati because they didn't have a receiver problem there. Their third receiver was fantastic there, not to mention their first and their second. T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase.
Yeah, a couple guys.
Maybe people were just in his way there.
Yeah,
Stanley Morgan breakout on the way.
All right, that's going to do it for the main show. Stick around for overtime. We will be back on Monday for everybody else. If you're not signed up for the site, make sure you do that. Use code CAMP24, 20% off your first payment. Appreciate y'all for tuning in.